Good morning, guys.
Hi guys.
We are here in Wisconsin, taking a little walk, and we thought we'd do a Q&A video. And just to start this off, we want everyone, whoever has questions, please comment either under Facebook, under the video, or YouTube. And we'll work those questions in and answer them for you on the next Q&A video we do. So we've been home for maybe a week. We summited on the 16th, and today is the 25th.
But we left on the 20th, so we've been home 5 days.
Right. But it's been however long since we summited is what I'm trying to get at. Anyway, we went for our first walk yesterday. We did 6 miles. And we were hurting by the time we were done. We know it's going to take like 3 to 4 weeks for our knees and feet to stop aching, and they're for sure still aching.
The weirdest ache though is the hands, because you squeeze your hands, and I guess that's from 6 months of gripping
Trekking poles.
But man, they're like arthritis or something.
Yeah, it's bad, especially the last 2 states, New Hampshire and Maine. We found ourselves just gripping our trekking poles all the time.
She found herself gripping.
really hard, just because we used them just to totally support us and catch ourselves when we fell and really keep our balance. So yeah, we're feeling like old people.
So to tell you how much Chica gripped and used her trekking poles, the carbide tips at the bottom were completely worn off,
Gone.
and she was starting to wear away the rubber part of her trekking pole. Both my carbide tips are still pretty much there.
But that's how I built up my arm muscles.
Win-win.
So, I didn't really know I was doing that, but yeah, I used them pretty heavily. So anyway, we're going to start off today with a few questions we've already been asked. One is, what should we start with?
I can't remember any of them.
Well, the first question was, are we still going to walk? Yes, this is our second day of walking. We're planning on walking every morning, at least Monday through Friday, 5 days a week. We definitely think that'll help ease out our soreness, and we want to stay in shape. We want to keep this weight off. So we're going for our second walk today. It's beautiful here in Wisconsin. Actually, it's been kind of hot. Like, my mom actually turned on the air yesterday, and she said she's hardly had to do that all summer. So anyway, it's a beautiful day here this morning. So yes, we definitely plan to walk. We're going to incorporate weightlifting and
Eating less,
possibly running. Trying to eat more healthy starting today. Right, Greg? Sunsets. He has a hard time eating healthy. So we'll see. Another question was post-trail depression. I don't know if all of you know, but after people thru hike the AT and go back to whatever life they go back to, almost everyone we've heard has had to deal with post-trail depression. Why? Because you get into this thru hiker lifestyle, which is totally different from anything else. The only people who understand it are fellow thru hikers. You don't have to worry about anything except packing your food out for 3 to 4 more days, how far you're going to hike tomorrow. You meet fabulous friends. You form a real bond with the hiker community. Help me out here, babe.
Well, and then you get back to real life, and you know, I it's probably too early to feel this sense of loss, but you know, I'm not quite sure I'll feel it personally. You know, we used the trail as a sounding board to figure out what we wanted to do next. We figured that out. We know we have somewhere to go. We have something to do. I think the people who really get depressed are those who are the type of people who would love to hike every single day for the rest of their life. That's not us. You know, we did not have depression when we left Costa Rica after 4 years. We did not have depression when we left our jobs, the careers that we built. I doubt we'll have depression. We might have a sense of longing and nostalgia for the trail. For sure, I can see that happening. But to be in despair because we're no longer on the trail, I don't see me being that way.
So I agree with sunsets. I haven't experienced any depression yet. I don't feel like I will, just because I've kind of been through this before. When I was in high school, I was in this group called the Kids from Wisconsin that I was with the whole summer, my junior year summer and my senior year summer, and totally experienced that. We formed these really strong friendship bonds, did this thing that nobody else knew really what it was like to do.
It was a traveling musical group.
Traveling music group. It was so cool to be in it. We performed all summer, and it was just a really talented group of musicians. And it was hard for me to go back to high school my senior year after my first year doing that. I got very depressed. Just missed everybody, missed just being with people who got you, all these musical people. And so anyway, I feel this is a totally different thing for us because we're older, we're more mature.
Speak for yourself.
Lots of thru hikers are very young, and they might be out of high school, they graduated high school, they're going to do this because they don't really know what they want to do next. Anybody who doesn't really know what they want to do next, it's going to be hard. It's going to be a hard time, for sure. So anyway, we have not experienced depression yet, and we don't think we will. But we'll keep you posted on that. So another question was favorite pieces of gear. I'll start. I can't name one. I have 3. My snot rag, which I call it, it's really called a running glove, which you can wear around your wrist. I hooked it on a carabiner on my backpack strap right here. You can use it, one side is like terry cloth for sweat. I'd use it to wipe the sweat off my face. And the other side is smoother, and I'd use it to wipe my nose after I blew my nose and really did like a snot rocket, because that's how you have to blow your nose out there because there's no Kleenex. But I would just kind of use it to wipe my nose afterwards. So I use that all the time, mainly because my nose runs like when I get cold or when I work out. And then towards the end I had a cold, so I use that all the time. Loved it. My buff I wore on my head was my other piece of favorite gear, because I could use it on my head. It was treated with permethrin, so I felt like I was really protected from ticks and stuff. It kept my oily hair under wraps. I used it for a pillowcase at night. I put it on my pillow. So it was just great, and it kept sweat. I could pull it over my ears, like if it was really buggy out or if it was cold. So yeah, that was great. And my other piece of favorite gear was my Cuddle Duds fleece pullover. I just loved it. It had a hood, a zipper, neck, and thumb holes, and it was lightweight, but definitely added a layer of warmth when I needed it, and it kind of came down lower on my hips. Now it's a little bit too big for me, but I still wear it. It's great. I love it. Had it the whole time.
What's that?
I'm doing the trail.
Oh.
How boring is this? Sunsets, what is your favorite piece of gear?
Well, first I'll tell you, in the description we'll put links to these products.
Yes.
To Amazon, and there'll be affiliate links, but basically that's a way for us to make a commission on it. You don't pay any more for them, but for directing you to Amazon, we get a little bit of a cut. I think it's like 4%. Anyway, so I'll talk about 3 different things. One, my shoes, La Sportiva Wildcats. You know, we knew people on the trail who went through hiking boots, multiple pairs of hiking boots. I went through 3 pairs of La Sportiva, which are trail runners. The only ding against them is they could get slick on wet rocks, which I think most do, but the tread on them is not super aggressive. And especially when you've got 1,000 miles on them, the tread is pretty slick. But as I said somewhere else in one of my videos, I don't think I'll own another shoe for walking, trail running, hiking ever again, unless they change up the design a lot. They're priced well. You can get them below $100. They're durable, and they fit my foot perfectly. And I know they don't fit everybody's feet perfectly, but they are like the best shoe for me. The second thing is my Lucky trekking poles, the Cork Light trekking poles. That lasted the whole 2,189.8 miles. They lasted with me falling on top of them, throwing them down steep embankments that I had to rock climb down. They never failed, and they impressed the hell out of me. You know, I had friends who had the collapsible ones from Black Diamond, and they hated them. They had 2 warranty claims in one hiking season. Just didn't have the problems with the Cork Light. We have a car passing us.
3.
Finally, and I wouldn't say this is my favorite, but this was the most utilitarian item that I wouldn't own anything else but. That's the Sawyer Squeeze water filter. You know, this thing, once again, filtered gallons and gallons and gallons. I was not very kind to mine. I would throw it on the ground. I would drop it occasionally, and it just worked. It just plain worked. And that's what you want when you're hiking for 6 months, is something that works every single day without fail. So those are my 3.
Worst pieces of gear. For me, have to say the Paca. The Paca was what I started with. It was a combo rain jacket and backpack cover. I wore it for our first completely drenching day in the rain and decided I did not care for it at all. Number one, you couldn't wear it, like when you're packing up your tent in the morning. I didn't want to put my backpack on that early. I wasn't ready for that weight, and I guess I could have put the pack on, but then I wouldn't have had anything to cover my backpack, which was sitting outside in the rain. So that's when I really started thinking, you know, maybe having a separate backpack cover for the rain and a separate rain jacket might be better. So
just for those who aren't aware of what the Paca is, it's a backpack cover that you put on your backpack for rain, but you can also, while it's on, you can slip through it, and now you have a rain jacket. So you have a backpack, a combo backpack cover and rain cover.
yeah, so the idea really impressed me in the beginning, but actually using it just wasn't that great. Plus mine, it was just kind of big. It didn't fit really well, and wind would get in it, would get all billowy, and so I switched. Very happy with my rain jacket. Plus, for really cold days, it added warmth. I also had the umbrella, which I had all along. That worked great in the summer and hot days when I didn't want to wear my rain jacket. And then I had a separate pack cover for my backpack, which was a Cedar Summit, and that worked pretty good too.
I'll tell you, rain is one of the hardest elements to figure out what works for you.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just get wet. A lot of times I did not wear a jacket. I just let my shirt get wet.
But if it's really cold out, you don't want to get wet.
You can't get
so
hypothermia.
It's really hard.
So yeah, it's really kind of a challenging. You have to have that solution in your backpack for when it is cold and wet.
So just FYI, if anyone wants the Paca, I have one for sale, and it's only been used once. Sunsets, what is your worst piece of gear?
Okay, so the only piece of gear that I really did not care for was my backpack. And once again, all these things that I'm mentioning, whether I like them or dislike them, are all very personal. I had the Gossamer Gear Mariposa, and the reason I did not like it is it caused me shoulder pain. It wasn't so bad that I wanted to get rid of it, but it caused me to dislike it. It's so great to have all these cottage industry gear manufacturers, Z-Packs, Gossamer Gear, ULA, all these smaller groups, but what you don't have is what you have at like REI, where you can go into a brick and mortar store, try it on, walk around with it, and see how it fits. Gossamer Gear does have a give it back within, I don't know, 30 or 60 days warranty for whatever reason, but it felt fine on my checkout hike. So other than fit, the Gossamer Gear was great. I loved all the pockets. It was durable. I got three small holes in it over 6 months. The hip belt is great because you can replace it on the fly. You don't have to, on a lot of other backpacks, once you reduce the size of your waist, and your waist belt gets so tiny you have to get a whole new backpack. With Gossamer Gear you can replace the actual hip belt, and I did that once, almost got to where I almost had to do it twice. Then I started eating and drinking more.
And we should note that, Sunsets is very tall and he has a long torso. So, like he said.
Right, and it seems the people, because when I started having frequent problems with this, every time I saw a Mariposa, I asked the person how they felt about it. And it seemed the taller folks had shoulder problems. The people who were a little bit shorter, I'm 6'3", like Jen said, I have a longer torso. The people who are of more standard height loved it. If you didn't have shoulder problems, you tended to love the backpack. So my experience is not necessarily your experience. I would say try it out if you're interested, because it's priced right and it's certainly lightweight. Try it out and use that full month they give you to walk around with it, load it up how you're going to load it.
Okay, our favorite state on the trail. Sunset?
Okay, so this question is a bit unfair for several reasons. One, how can Maine not be your favorite state? Because you end on Katahdin and there's so much emotion and the momentum you gain, even starting in the southern part of Maine where it's really hard with the Mahoosic Notch in the arm and the Bigelows. Even with all that, you just have all this swell of emotion starting because you're so close to the end, and then you have all this beautiful scenery. It's probably the most natural state of all. You have these beautiful lakes, and then you summit Katahdin. So it's unfair. It's also unfair from the standpoint of, if you had bad weather in one state, it pretty much is going to cross it off your list. New York, for me, I will never hike in New York again because we had oppressive heat and humidity, and every day was miserable for me. The delis were nice. After Maine, my second choice would be Vermont. And once again, it's a little unfair. It's because the weather was nice and we could go swimming in the ponds. The views were nice. We had lakes to swim in. The mud that you hear everybody talk about was not present. It was muddier in New Hampshire, muddier in Maine than how it was in Vermont for us. We had friends who flipped. By the time they got to Vermont, it was nothing but rain, and they hate Vermont.
And mud.
And mud. So a lot of it has to do with the weather you experience in the state. But Maine and Vermont, in my mind, are the tops. Okay, Chica's arm's getting tired, so I'm going to hold this thing for a while. Okay, so
Because we're talking so long.
The next question is favorite moments on the trail. So it's pretty telling that my favorite moments almost always are off the trail. Almost always involve other hikers too. So I'll give you my favorite moment from the trail. Would be the day we did McAfee Knob, and we decided to make that a big day. We pushed on to McAfee, even though it was already a long day, and we did the Dragon's Tooth trail part as well. And so it was a long day, and we were pushing ourselves very hard. Chica was definitely done, and then we get to McAfee Knob, and the weather is gorgeous, the sky is clear, and you look and that view, oh God, it was the first really good view we had on the whole trail up to that point. We were socked in at Clingman Dome, Charlie's Bunyan, Max Patch, all these places we didn't get at the view you're supposed to get. So McAfee Knob was the first great view, and it's like, shit, this is, excuse me, I just said shit. I said it again. This is worth it. This is worth the pain of hiking. It was that kind of feeling, and it was, I think, the first time for me I felt that on the trip. Otherwise, it's, I forget the town, but the place that has the restaurant Three Little Pigs, or Three Pigs, we had a dinner, and with that dinner was a bunch of our friends and some new friends that we made. Disciple with a YouTube channel, Not by Sight, Curdog, Easygoing, Single T. Who else was there?
Hot Sauce, Ziploc.
Hot Sauce and Ziploc. So all our friends and part of our trail family were there, and it was just a great time of animated discussion, having great food, and having a couple cervezas. So times like that, and there were probably 2 or 3, maybe 3 or 4 dinners like that where we got to meet up. It just so happened we were in the same town with friends of ours, and we just had a great time chatting and eating food, which is very important.
Okay, for me, favorite moments, they mostly centered around, I think, like what Sunset said, being with other hiker friends. I remember the day we hiked into Hanover, New Hampshire. We saw scallywags in them that morning. It was an easy hike in. We met up with Easygoing. We crossed the border into New Hampshire, came into town, and it was a lovely town. Dartmouth College is there, and there's a bunch of cute little things. And it's very hiker friendly, so we went to this place for breakfast with Easygoing. Tarzan was there. We saw P-Tang and Happy Hour. I think Newt was there too. We saw him briefly.
Right,
he was just leaving. And so we hung out there, got a free muffin, had an awesome breakfast. And we hung out at Starbucks for a while, did some Wi-Fi work. And then we went to lunch at this pizza place that gave hikers a free slice of pizza. And we had a big table there with other hikers, and that was really fun. And then we stayed with a trail angel that night. That was cool. It was just a cool town. Being with our other hiker friends was really cool. There was one day we were hiking, and we stayed at a campsite with Single T, Sushi Roll, and Roar, and it rained. And then the next morning, it was just us there, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of us. And the next morning, we were just having a good time in the morning. We were just talking. Roar made us a cup of coffee. We were really enjoying it. And none of us left camp till like 9:30, which is unheard of, very late. So we were just having a really good time. And then that whole day was a really nice hike. We were leapfrogging with Single T, Sushi Roll, and Roar all day, and got into camp later with them. And Easygoing came in later that night. So a lot of our trail family. It was just a good day. Another good day I remember was we did like 15 or 16 miles, which was really a lot for us at the time, but it just seemed to whiz by. The day was perfect, the weather was perfect. We went by the schoolhouse, which had really cool trail magic, had a long break there. Saw Addie, who we hadn't seen in a while, or we'd seen her recently, but it's good to talk to her. And then we hiked more, and then there's this place you could go right on the trail, the Barn Restaurant. So we went there for dinner, and I just remember like just feeling so relaxed, not worrying about when we got to camp, how fast we were going that day. It was just a really good day. So yeah, those were 2 really good days. There were other days like that too, especially when we met up with our hiker friends or from our trail family that we hadn't seen in a while. A few days we hiked with Subway. That was really fun. He totally entertained us with his New York cop stories, and he's a really nice guy. We hiked with Zero Hero a couple days.
What's up, Zero?
He was really awesome. Very fun to hike with and be around, talk to. Easygoing for sure. We hiked with him probably the most. And he laughed at all Greg's jokes.
Thanks for that, buddy.
It was always fun and interesting hiking with him. Except he got really fast in the end. He used to be like slow like us, and then he got really fast. So we're
Not so easygoing as his
not
new
so
trail name.
easygoing anymore. He summited like a few days before us. Well, 4 or 5 days. Yeah, so stuff like that. Just we hiked with Papa John quite a few days. And Sushi Roll and Roar, we didn't really hike with them, but we leapfrogged with them a lot in the beginning, and
Ended up in the same camp.
see them at camp at night, talk to them a lot. They're really cool, and they're from Wisconsin, and we plan to see them for sure, meet up with them here in Wisconsin, so that'd be cool. Yeah, so just things like that. We're all really happy, good moments. Oh, the day on Mount Greylock was really hard hiking up there at the end. It was like 5 or 6 o'clock at night, and we met up with Easygoing, P-Tang, and Happy Hour were there, and we all had a drink. And we're like, let's see if they have a bunk room available. So we all ended up staying the night instead of hiking 3 more miles to the shelter campsite. And all they had for dinner was like this fabulous 3-course expensive meal. So we're like,
$35 a person. And
we all decided to do it. And it was just, it wasn't like a crazy fun time, but it was just a really nice, relaxing, good time. Oh, and AT Walker was there too. We met her for the first time. She was doing a long section hike this year. So yeah, that was a really good time for me too. And of course, we have to say, both of us agree, the best, most fabulous moment on the whole AT over the course of 6 months was the last day, Mount Katahdin.
how could it not be?
The whole day, you guys, it was so amazing. Adrenaline just
It was like we were
filled our bodies.
floating up the mountain.
Yeah, well, we didn't have our packs on, so we were kind of floating. But oh, guys, it was just so emotional and wonderful, and what we've been dreaming of for like the last 2 years, and definitely dreaming of the 6 months being on the trail. Like, are we ever going to get to that moment where we see the sign and we get to take our picture by it? And we just couldn't imagine actually being there. And then all of a sudden we were there, and it was, I can't describe it.
Katahdin.
It was Katahdin. It was big K, special K. Okay, worst days on the trail. We both agree on our top 2 worst days were way early in the beginning. We had a rain day that it rained all day. Well, we only hiked like 7 or 8 miles, but this was in the beginning, so that was a long ways for us. It was cold out, and it wasn't just sprinkling. It was downpouring. And we finally got to a shelter, which was packed.
Like sardines. I mean, there was 30 people in this 8-person shelter.
Boy Scouts, and everybody was shivering, and people were getting hypothermia. I was shivering. I didn't get hypothermia, but it felt like it. It was bad, scary, and we had to stay in the shelter for a while. Finally, it let up later in the afternoon. We put our tent up real quick and got inside. And it felt like it took like hours,
2
to
hours to
warm
get
up.
warm,
It was
yeah.
crazy.
It was
Even getting in all our clothes and our sleeping bag and everything.
it really could have been a dangerous situation.
Yeah. And that's the day I wore my parka too. My first day, I really tested out the parka and I was like, this is not going to work. And the second worst day was in New York. I can't remember where exactly. Oh, wherever the Stairway to Heaven is. Lots of boulder rock climbing. And it downpoured on us right when we got to like this highest point where we had to climb rebar.
You see a trend here?
Rain. But it was thundering and lightning, and we were at the highest point, which was really scary. We kind of hunkered down for a while. All we had was Greg's rain skirt because we were slack packing that day, so we didn't have our umbrella or anything. And we got totally drenched, which wasn't bad because it was warm out. But then hiking after that, it was still raining. We had to go up this rebar. We had to keep going. Someone was picking us up that night. We had a time schedule. It was very slippery up there.
Yeah,
It was,
in New York,
it was just awful.
you have these big slabs of rock that you have to constantly walk over, and
And they're
when wet,
slanted.
they're very, very slippery. And I think the scariest part for me in that whole thing, getting wet's one thing, but having lightning strike,
Yeah.
within, a quarter-mile radius of you is pretty unnerving.
Yep. So those were the worst days.
Other days for me specifically, there's another trend of heat exhaustion. I had a really hard time dealing with the heat. I've mentioned that a couple times. The very first time was Westerwald. I kept thinking it was Wyabald, but it wasn't. It was Westerwald. And after climbing that thing, I basically collapsed for about an hour and didn't want to move. It'd be interesting reclimbing that in better weather, but probably wouldn't be that big of a deal. And then, like I said, almost all of New York was a bad day for me because
just
it
the
was
heat.
it was just so
Humid.
so humid. I would wake up, put on my pack, and I would already be drenched. And so, there's different ways to deal with that. A lot of people do night hiking. Chica wasn't about to do night hiking, but it's one way to beat the heat. So those of you who get in this situation, think about that. We got these chill rags that you damp in, and they really help. I'll put a link down there too for that. And they're cheap. They're like $10.
They really worked well.
You put it around your neck, and it does cool you down for 30 minutes at a time, and then
And you
just,
can use it to wipe your face. It just cools your face off.
Yep.
It was nice.
Yep. And
Electrolytes.
yep. You need to start drinking more Powerade and eating bananas because you're losing so much salt and so many electrolytes.
He would get salt rings on his t-shirt. You could just see all the salt he was losing. Wasn't good.
And then the last thing that people do is they flip. They get so tired of the heat, they flip. We've had a couple of friends who flipped from New York to Katahdin and started walking back because they just didn't want to deal with the heat.
Yeah, which worked well for them. So we could have done that too. But we were bound and determined to end on Katahdin, and we're so glad we did. It was worth it, right, honey?
I believe so, yes.
You believe so?
I know so.
He knows so. So guys, leave any questions you have in the comments below, and we will get to them on our next Q&A video. I want to thank everyone who's followed us. You guys, I know people always say this, but every single one of you really meant a lot to us. Even if we didn't like or comment on your comment right away, they're hard to keep up with when we're on the trail. But we always got to read them, we'd see them, and they really helped us more than you know, especially when we were having down days, feeling miserable about something. We're like, all these people are rooting for us. We can't let our fans down, our friends and our fans, and we can't thank you guys enough. right?
That's right.
Is there any other way to say that?
No.
It
thank
really
you.
meant a lot to us.
Yeah, it was surprising how, because we watched multiple people's through hike videos over the past couple of years preparing for our own journey, and they always said how much the comments mean, and I'm like, yeah, whatever. They do.
Yeah,
they mean.
they
I
really
mean,
do.
When you're out in the freaking wilderness and you're on day 7 with no shower and it's hot and you're just miserable, and then you see a comment that says, "You guys are my inspiration. Thank you." And I'm like, holy cow, that
It meant the world to us.
that just says, it gave us the little push to keep on going.
Definitely. So, yeah, what else? Just leave your questions below.
Leave your questions to go. Don't unsubscribe, because we're going to
No.
keep these videos going. We have a lot of stuff to cover I have a lot of stuff to cover that I didn't do on the trail. A bunch of things that I learned hanging a bear bag or whatever. And then I have
Yeah.
some interesting opinion pieces that I may or may not put in. I like the civility of the comments that we've had up till now, and I don't necessarily want to ruin that, but I do have some opinions that might be fun to share. And then Chica's got some things she's working on, so
Yeah, so
keep following.
stay tuned.